So I want to talk a little bit about microdiscectomy surgery. Now, microdiscectomy is sold off as something that is minimally invasive, but I was listening. I don't know how this happens, by the way. Dr. Chris Rayner, he's an orthopedic guy. I don't know where he's at, but I actually like his channel. Just starts popping up on my YouTube. I check him out. I think he says a lot of good things. He trashes a lot of chiropractors, but I think he does it in a more respectful manner, and he at least doesn't tell you got to get surgery, doesn't tell you should get chiropractic. I like that he does that. So he sounds a little bit more open-minded than a lot of people. But like he was saying, he was talking about chiropractors can't get on bones, and he's right. We really can't, because the amount of tissue here is, he called it 1.5 to 2 inches. It's probably right between fat, skin, fascia to get to the point where you're touching the vertebrae. It's pretty far in there. But enough about him. Hi, Chris. If you ever watch this, you're pretty cool. But I want to talk a little bit about microdiscectomy, because this is a microdiscectomy surgery case here. Now, the guy had a microdiscectomy at L5 and S1. Again, minimally invasive, no such thing. You got to go a couple inches to get to that disc. And what happens in microdiscectomy, and I'm going to show you without the spinal nerve first, is if you look at this, and we just got the radiology report from the MD yesterday said there was a 9mm retrolisthesis at L5. Well, retrolisthesis is very similar. It's the medical term of something that happens in a chiropractic subluxation. And it's when the vertebrae shifts backwards. That's what back, retrolisthesis. But what happens is, after damaging that disc, it starts to create the inflammatory factors that start to pinch off that nerve in there. Now, in the case of, if you look at any person that has any disc issue, you will always see a retrolisthesis. And if there's nerve interference there when we do the test, there is definitely that's a subluxation. Well, at L5 here, this guy had this microdiscectomy surgery quite a few years ago. I think he was in the office 7 years ago, and like I said, he just came back yesterday. But it did nothing for him. Let me explain the surgery. When you have a subluxation, these onto the bone here. So when that shifts back, that's stretching and herniating that disc. It all comes back together. So what they do in microdiscectomy is they start to shave off that herniated disc there. So it's protruding through that intervertebral foramen where that nerve comes out. Let me show you this model right here. That's where the nerve comes out, but shifted posteriorly. And one of the problems with subluxation is the vertebrae is fixed. You get lack of movement. Well, since the discs are relatively avascular, they lose that motion, and that imbibition, that imbibing is what keeps that disc healthy. It imbibes fluid in and out, nutrients in and out to get to the disc, since it doesn't have any blood vessels. But this stops moving, this is going to degenerate. Now, the problem with doing microdiscectomy, it's done nothing to resolve the issue. The vertebrae is still shifted posterior. That needs to be set forward, so all they've done is shaved off the disc. And what happens is over time, that disc starts to degenerate. Now, why is this such a bad surgery? Ask Tiger Woods. I think he had 4 microdiscectomy surgeries, and then they finally fused the vertebrae in. Now, when the microdiscectomy is, his job, which is, of course, golfing, he creates a tremendous amount of stress. The discs are very weak when they are rotated. So when you rotate, now you have even less matter, less material there to stabilize that structure, that functional spinal unit. Of course, you're going to have more damage. Tiger went through 4 of these, nothing worked, and finally he got it fused. So this condition will never get better by microdiscectomy. There's nothing minimally invasive about it. It will never get better because the vertebrae is always shifted out of place. The only hope for these people is they get a good specific Gonstead adjustment to get that pressure off that nerve. And if they do that, they now have the potential to let that function more normally. That's completely gone. It doesn't matter what. You're screwed. So with surgery, anything that decreases matter from the body, like microdiscectomy, is always going to be bad, despite any type of symptom relief.